All right, so thank you everybody for being with us today. Today we are very fortunate to have actually Joanne's MAPS coach, Roxanne Webster, with us. Obviously, since Joanne and her have a great relationship already and know each other really well, I've asked Joanne to do most of the talking this morning. I'm going to let her kind of take the ropes on today's call, and then myself and Jamie and of course all of you guys can jump in and ask some questions or offer up some ideas as those come along. Just remember to unmute yourself when you do that. So Joanne, over to you. Take it away, please.
Well, thank you so much. And Rox, I'm really excited that you're on the call. And agents, I hope that you just participate fully because we've got an amazing, amazing guest. And also Paige coaches and Miranda Oswald's team coaches with Roxanne as well. So super excited to introduce Paige to Roxanne. So Roxanne, I know that you're not in Florida. Tell us where you are and a little bit about you and your journey with Keller Williams, please.
I live in scenic Boulder, Colorado. I'm on the eastern plains outside of Boulder. I'm from Detroit originally, so having cows all around my house was a pleasant adjustment. I started with Keller Williams in 2010. I had been at that point doing real estate myself with a little boutique in Colorado. And then in 2008, between 2008 and 2010, the company that I was with was sold 4 times. So I had to change my signs 4 times in 4 years without ever moving my seat. So the recruitment to get me on board with Keller Williams was really simple. Somebody offered to change my signs. I knew nothing about KW, and I sold. You'll change my signs, okay? Yeah, when I joined this company, having spent years in prior to real estate in the nonprofit world, having worked with a lot of businesses and then having ran my own real estate company or been in my own real estate business, I was astonished to find a company that had such a dedication to learning and self-growth and sharing. That is so uncommon in a sales organization. And that culture was brilliant, and I'm hooked for life. I'm here.
Awesome. So how long have you been a MAPS coach?
I've been a MAPS coach now for 4.5 years, and I'm just getting out of the toddler stage. It took I'm in the Gary mastermind, and a few years ago, he suggested that we, as leaders, look at becoming coaches. And after about 6 months, I realized why he had made that suggestion. When we run our own teams, we get so used to, I'm not going to say being the dictator, but of making all the decisions and of plotting the course for others. And coaching is a whole different deal. With coaching, it is, there are times where you're consulting, especially in these times. There's a lot of, are you doing this? Are you doing that? Make sure you're shoring up your transactions, all these things. But for the most part, it is it's the practice of helping people to reveal to themselves where they want to go and what their motivations are to do that. And that's a very different set of muscles than just leading a team. So it has been very beneficial for me. My team used to call me the honey badger, and they don't call me that as much anymore.
I love that. So I know that what you've done for me since we began this journey, and it hasn't been that long, and I've had a MAPS coach before, and I think there's a different coach for different seasons in our life. Yeah. Much more of a tactician. You come with strategies and you make me do my homework, which I appreciate. Use GPS. What I love about it is you were writing my screen and we were writing that together. So we have a roadmap of where we're going to go. Now we've hit a little bit of a hiccup, but what I love is that you've got tactics and scripts. So I know yesterday we were looking at one of the agents was asking if we had any scripts for today, and we didn't get a chance to answer that. I know, Tim, you wanted some scripts that we could use today. Ross, could you share with us some of the most valuable scripts that you have implemented on your team or with your coaching clients, please?
Certainly. And let's look at coaching to the times, obviously, and scripting to the times. I think that the scripting right now, it has to really come from your heart, right? You have to really be connecting with people. And ultimately, wasn't that always the case? The best people on the phone, the best people at the door are the ones who were able to connect with people and build a sincere rapport. So I don't think this is any different than it's ever been, except that now you're going to get a whole lot more hostility if you are not sincere with people. So you're getting more instant feedback than you have before. So less than a script, when I'm having database calls, I'm really seeking with rapport to get at a few data points. I want to know, first of all, is somebody's family well? Are they doing well? How is it working, sheltering in place? How's it going with the kids? So I'm doing all of the stuff we learn in bold, forward, build rapport. But then what I'm really seeking to get at is a few pieces of information. I want to know if their job is secure. And I'll ask them, how's it working, working from home, right? I'm making the assumption that they are working from home, and somebody will volunteer if they are in fact unemployed or if their job feels shaky. And we'll get in a moment to why that's important to me. I want to see, and this is a more delicate question, but if somebody feels like their employment is shaky, I want to be asking them, wow, I'm talking to a lot of people right now. Do you feel like you have the wherewithal to stay at home for 3 months if needed? Do you have 3 to 6 months in reserves? Most people don't. The average American would have their budget derailed by a $400 auto bill that was unexpected. We all know that. So if somebody is either unemployed or worried about their employment and they don't have 6 months in reserves put aside, I'm asking that because that person may well be your listing of the next 60 days. If somebody doesn't have the wherewithal to go to ground and they don't know when they're going back to work, that person may be in a position. We've got a lot of folks who are equity rich and cash poor right now. And those people may well decide that they are better served selling their home now, renting for 6 months, and then buying back into the market again. That way they've freed up some cash against what we don't know. This could be 2 months, it could be 6, right? Who knows? We don't know what the trajectory of this looks like because we really don't know how many people are ill at this point, right? So that's what we're seeking to do, is seeking to enter into conversations with people to find out if they're employed, if their employment is stable, and if they have the financial wherewithal to go to ground for a few months here. And if they don't, we can start opening the discussions with them about how to shore up their finances. And there's one of 2 routes I've been going with on that. If they are employed, I'm suggesting that they speak with a lender and see if they can pull some of the cash out of their house. Just something to have in the bank account. Liquidity, right? And that's exactly right from Ann, liquidity. We want to make sure that people are liquid. And if they are employed, they do have 6 months in reserves, right? I want them to pull some cash out of their money, their house, liquidity. One thing we do know is once the dust settles on this thing, there's going to be a period of time, we don't know how long it is, where the folks who were not in a position to hold out for some period of time and did not have liquidity may find themselves needing to repay the forbearance agreements. And these are not forbearances we're seeing from the banks. We're either seeing delays, just hitting the pause button, and then they're tacking those mortgage payments at the end of people's mortgage. That's a very benign one, fine. Less benign is spread out the payments over the course of a year, but it's still fine. But there's some of these where they're going to expect the full back payment in 3 months. Those folks, if they don't have the money to make their mortgages right now, they're not going to have the money to pay off that that agreement at the end of 3 or 4 months, right? So we want to be getting into the ones who do have that liquidity. They're going to have an opportunity as a bunch of people come on the market for a short period of time and I believe flood the market. I think we're going to see a temporary drop in values. And for folks who are well situated, there may be some real investment opportunities for those who've got some liquid funds at hand, right? So this is a discussion of liquidity. Anne was completely right. Liquidity to shore up your personal finances if needed, and liquidity to be in a position to act when we see the market start to bounce back from this health event. Does that help? It's not quite a script, but it tells us what we're after with our script.
Was that helpful, Tim? In specific, because I know you asked that yesterday.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for, because I've been having some conversations with people, but then they get a little antsy, and I just want to know where to go after the, are you guys okay, and where you're going from there. So this actually adds on to it, so it's going to help me out a lot. I really appreciate that.
Good.
You're
and
awesome.
You can sometimes find if somebody is being not defensive, but this is intimate stuff we're doing, right? We're asking them about their personal finances at a time where some people are scared, especially if their personal finances are not stable. So sometimes if I think that somebody is, and one of the things I'm loving about Zoom is that we can actually see how it's landing, right? We've got all that nonverbal communication too. And if somebody is starting to go to a place of shutting down or not being responsive, because this is an intimate discussion, you can throw it into the third person and keep talking. Meaning, you could say, oh, I'm so glad you're in good shape there. Boy, I've been spending my days having conversations with a bunch of people who are house rich and cash poor, and I've been giving them some really firm advice on how to shore up their finances. So I'm still giving them the message without talking about them anymore. And that can sometimes be very powerful. The trick is, too, folks, this, as always, is a pipeline game, but this is a different type of pipeline. When you're running into people that you think or suspect might be having difficulties or are going to be, especially if you tried to open this conversation with them now, when they do get in trouble in 3, 4, 5, 6 months, they're going to feel ashamed that you tried to approach them on it and they won't call you. So the trick is for you to be keeping a pipeline of people that are on your watch list that you're talking to every other week and be having the great conversations with them that we're having with you. Hey, my family just trimmed 10% out of our budget this week. And I'm not sure if you're aware, you can call your credit cards and they'll reduce your interest rates. You can open a financial discussion with them that lasts over a period of months. And then if and when they are in trouble, you're already part of that conversation with them, where they would not call you if you had not been in constant contact with them.
Right. So the database is one place that we need to continue mining and building those relationships. We're also talking about reaching out to for sale by owners because they need us more than ever right now. Talking to expireds as well, and adding value wherever we go, having these kinds of conversations. And if it comes from your heart, I get, even if you don't know exactly what to say, if you're following the roadmap that Rox is talking about. So does anyone have any questions have any questions while you've got her and her mind is amazing?
Well, I just wanted to say that this is our, I don't know, 17th, 18th, 19th Zoom call we've done like this in a row. And it's funny because every time we have one of these calls, we come up with a new nugget, right? So that's a great script or approach or a way to come from contribution with your clients that we haven't really talked about up to this point. We've been doing this every single day for 3 or 4 weeks. So thank you for that, Roxanne. That was great. I think a lot of agents will be able to take that and integrate it into those care calls that they're using with their clients, because that's really what we're doing right now is we're making care calls and we're trying to find out how can we be of service. And the service we offer day to day in our business is highly valuable to people in that situation. So
our team is not doing lead generation these days. We're doing love generation.
We're doing love generation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I was going to say, Rox, I think you're amazing. I appreciate Joanne bringing you into this conversation. I think one of the things that I struggle with is I'm really great with the care call to say, hey, how are you doing? But getting into the nitty gritty and kind of pushing that conversation has been difficult. So thanks for giving me the words and kind of the box and to realize that it doesn't have to happen in one call. Sorry.
Right. It won't happen in one call.
Yeah. So thank you
Right.
so much.
Well, and here's the other thing too, especially for those of us who've been in business for longer than a year, right? Even if you've been in business for a year, we all can scan a list of our past clients and know which ones are likely to be in trouble. We know that, right? Just like we know the clients. The last round of calls I made was to my clients like the Strickers and the Moons that I've sold multiple properties to throughout the years. They're always putting 50% down. They're very conservative. They buy well beneath their means. They're fine. I don't need to call them to know they're fine. I've had many we have these short-term financially intimate relationships with our past clients. Likewise, we all have the client that did FHA, needed gift funds, and had to do 2 explanation letters. And we know who's likely to be in trouble. There's a whole other set of people that we don't know until we talk to them. But we've got a hot list already, if we peel through our past clients, of folks that you know are like that they just don't have the same type of conservative fiscal habits that other clients do. And those are the first round.
Okay, so let's make sure that we're calling those folks. And for some of us who were around in the short sale era, it's that intimate, kind of scary conversation with our clients, and we just do a lot of listening, right? And we're there to help. So we have all the tools and all the resources at KW. You just need to practice your craft.
Well, and a thing to keep in mind too, and you saw this in the short sale years as well, Joanne, that people under stress kind of scrapes off the veneer of social graces, right? So when people are under stress, they're more raspy. If they tend to be, like me, the honey badger, they're more honey badgerish. If somebody tends to be pessimistic, they tend to be more pessimistic. These type of times bring out the essence of who somebody is much closer to the surface than we usually see them. I say that because the reactions that you get from people are going to be very honest and in some cases very raw. And that is something that gives you, that gives you 10 years worth of rapport building potential in one conversation if you forge forward with sensitivity and caring and without responding, without reacting to their space. You have to go to somebody's space and then bring them to yours. We know that from mirroring and matching and from language of sales. But just to be prepared that these conversations, somebody may be as uncomfortable as you are, and you're in a unique position to lead your community right now, because we are their financial advisor. And whether or not they've seen you that way before, you have a unique opportunity to place yourself firmly into that position for the rest of their lives.
Right, so we're memorable.
Roxanne? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I went through this before too. This is my 17th year in the business, and this is a little bit different than 2007, 2008. So that's why I was asking about, the extra questions to dig down to, because before we would ask them, are you behind on your mortgage? Well, now it's just, how are you doing and how is everything going? So I really appreciate it's not a script you gave us, but how deep to dig. And the nice thing is I'm with Keller Williams this time. Last time I wasn't. We have more tools to work with and ways to do things. We have command now, so you can keep these notes in command and use your tags that you've already talked to them. So it gives you can do a task to follow up with these people in, a month, 2 weeks, however you decide to do it. And the task will remind you who you need to call right away. So that's a little, I had to throw some tech in here too. So
we appreciate
absolutely. Yeah.
So Roxanne, what are you guys finding that is, I know everyone's super focused on the their care calls and the love generation, as you put it. I like that. Is your team doing anything differently around any of their other forms of what they've normally been doing to generate business, or are they just strictly focused on the database right now?
That was our focus for the first couple of weeks because we've got a big database. You know, now I'm 25 years into it, right? And now we are starting to call old expireds, 3 months old expireds. We're starting to peel through those. And you're all at a big market, so I bet they're just, you know, you've got expireds falling out of the sky if you wanted to go dig into some old ones. And we are having a version of the same conversation with them. Now that's already, we're finding that that's a little trickier, right? Because they're already fairly defensive. But we all know why an expired didn't sell, right? I don't care what it is. It's price, location, whatever, it's price. Of course, we know that. And that's the last thing in the world that an expired wants to hear. So I have been using, nor are we allowed to knock our competition, are we? We're not allowed to ethically. In most cases, we're not allowed to legally. So I've got a little script that I'm using right now. I call it 3 groans and a tooth suck. Right? It's to build rapport with them and to allow them to vent about their agent without me having done so, which also gives me a roadmap for what is important to them. So my 3 groans and a tooth suck script goes along the lines of ring, ring, hi. I noticed that your house came off of the market recently. I was wondering if you're still hoping to get that sold. Yes. Then I put on, in my face, in my air, in my tone, I want the next line to be as confused as if I just saw the sun rise in the west, right? And I ask him, God, you know, I'm looking at the pictures of this house and it looks like a great house. Any idea why it didn't sell? Right? Like I just found a new dinosaur alive in my backyard is the tone I want to have. Like I can't imagine why this house didn't sell. Any idea why this didn't sell? And at that point, they're either going to start throwing their agent under the bus and that makes your job easier, or they're going to give you the, oh, I don't know. And then I start asking them questions that allow me to do my 3 groans and a tooth suck. I don't ask them, did they hold any open houses, right? I ask them, how many open houses did they hold? So I assume that they would have held an open house. In these days, how many remote open houses did they hold? Well, now it doesn't matter if somebody says 1 or 15, that answer can be wrong in my mind, right? So whatever their answer is, then I give them a groan. Right? Then my next question will be, well, when you got your weekly update call from your agent, what were they telling you? And 99 out of 100 are going to say, I didn't get a weekly call from my agent. Groan number 2. And after the showings, did they, what type of feedback were they giving you and advice on how to better stage the market in the eyes of the buyer? Well, they didn't give me feedback. Tooth suck, right? So this builds real rapport, right? And then I close in with, well, look, I don't like to knock my competition, nor am I allowed to. So let it just suffice to say that we do things a little bit differently here, especially in these times. Then I can start closing for a virtual appointment. Right. And in that appointment, the appointment that I may be closing for is not necessarily to sell their house. Well, we do things a little bit differently. First of all, we see you first and foremost. We see ourselves first and foremost as consultants, as financial consultants. I've been talking to all of my personal clients for the past 3 weeks about how to solidify and shore up their financial situation and where their house may or may not fit into that discussion. I would be available this afternoon to have a half-hour Zoom call with you. Would 2 or 3 be better? So I'm closing for the financial appointment. not for a listing appointment.
No, that's great because it also, it's going to create curiosity on their end, right? It's going to be so much different than any other expired call they've gotten. You're coming at it from a totally different angle. So I love that.
And I love the way that works, that you're not throwing any, but you're asking those questions, leading them with your grown. And I mean, that's an awesome, awesome tool. So thank you.
It's a fun script to do too. I've taught it to my whole office, and I'll hear somebody groaning and tooth sucking and everybody else is grinning in their little cubicles.
So 3 groans and a tooth suck. Where else would you come up with that? It's my coach, right? I mean, that's awesome. I know we're at 8:58 is what I have on my computer. Any last minute questions, comments? Amy, Maureen?
And by the way, guys, my job right now is 24/7 coaching. I'll come here every week if you want me. Just reach out and let me know, and we will continue this conversation, because those of us, oh, there are my little doggies, those of us who seize this moment, this is where real estate careers are launched. We consumed market share during the last crash, and we helped a bunch of people a lot get outcomes they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Both things. You can become a leader in your business, you can become a leader in your community, you can become a leader in your database, and you can position yourself for the next 10 years in real estate if you do it right.
Absolutely.
So you heard that. She's offering every week. I'm like giving a thumbs up. I know that we've got special coaching calls on also on Saturdays with you, Rox, and we really appreciate that. We go through the minutes and look at everything, and you're always coming from contribution. And like I said, really great tactics that we can put into, like, raise your hand if you're going to do this stuff today, you know, like, yeah, exactly.
Roxanne, we are going to be teaching our agents in Ignite this new script because it's awesome, right, Ann? That's on our agenda today.
Yeah.
So yeah, Rox, I think you've got 19 people in Ignite that
We probably have more today.
awesome.
And one last word to you guys. Self-care is really important right now. I mean, look at my hair. I've been seeing all these, we're all getting, my nails are falling off, right? It's really easy to lose track of the days here. We are no use to our families. We're no use to our communities if we're not caring for ourselves. So pull out MREA and look at the energy plan. Make sure that you're getting up every morning, taking care of yourself physically, nutritionally, spiritually, so that you're in a calm space where you can help one another and help people, including yourself, get better outcomes here.
Appreciate that.
Awesome. So I know, real quick before we go, Lauren, you had something you wanted to tell everybody about, if you want to unmute yourself.
Hey guys, so yeah, I just wanted to remind everyone, I am doing a Zoom call to teach everyone about how to use landing pages in Command. So if you want to learn, there's multiple different ways inside of Command that you can actually do a different landing page. So 2 o'clock, there is going to be a link on Facebook so they can get you in there pretty easy. But I just wanted to remind everyone that I'm doing that at 2.
Awesome.
So
Roxanne, thank you so much for joining
hang on,
us.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'm
Yep.
getting multiple messages asking if we can set a date and a time for Roxanne to come back next week. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be working on the schedule for next week today, so I can reach out to you or through Joanne and we'll get that set up.
Excellent. My pleasure.
Thank you so much for getting,
Awesome.
I know it's earlier where you are than we are, so thank you for being
Right.
up early with us.
It is my
Thank you.
pleasure, gang. Keep on the phone. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your communities and prosper together. Woohoo!
All right.
Thank you,
Bye.
Thanks so much, Roxanne.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Joanne.
Roxanne.
Thank you.
Next time she's going to play the ukulele.
Woohoo!